member witnesses who are here today, there's no more important role for the United States Senate than to carefully guard and protect the civil rights of every American. We take an oath to uphold the Constitution, and that is a promise every American rightly should hold us accountable to honor. The Chairman and I agree on a number of matters concerning civil rights. We have, as he mentioned, both co-sponsored the Smarter Sentencing Act, which would reduce mandatory minimums for nonviolent drug offenders and help restore the proper balance of federalism, deterrence, and proportionality to these laws. We are also both co-sponsors of the USA Freedom Act, which I believe strikes a better balance between the need to combat terrorism through effective intelligence and at the same time protecting the privacy rights of everyday Americans. I would note additionally that the hearing this committee held on solitary confinement policy earlier this year was, I think, a positive and productive hearing that shed light on a practice of law enforcement at the federal level and state level that needs to change. All of those are positive. Yet at the same time, civil rights remains a challenging topic in this country, a topic that is perceived differently by people of different racial backgrounds, ethnic backgrounds, socioeconomic backgrounds. We see the unfortunate reality that in the last 6 years, income inequality has increased, that in the last 6 years, the rich have gotten richer. The top 1% today earn a higher share of our income than any year since 1928. And yet people who are struggling, young people, Hispanics, African Americans, single moms, are finding their lives harder and harder and harder. When it comes to civil rights, I think there is no civil right more important than the right of every child to access a quality education. And in my view, the most compelling civil rights issue of the 21st century is the need to expand school choice and educational options so that every child, regardless of race, regardless of ethnicity, regardless of zip code, regardless of wealth, has a fair opportunity to receive an excellent education. Unfortunately, that has not been a focus of this committee. For the past 2 years, I am hopeful it will become a focus of the committee in the coming years. I would note as well that a disturbing pattern has been demonstrated over the last several years of the federal government violating the constitutional rights of the citizenry. Whether it is the IRS disregarding the First Amendment rights of citizens, asking individual citizens, tell us what books you're reading, tell us the content of your prayers. Whether it is a consistent disregard for the Second Amendment. Whether it is a disregard for religious freedom, including, unfortunately, the federal government right now litigating against the Little Sisters of the Poor, a Catholic convent of nuns who've taken vows of poverty, who devote their lives to caring for the poor and elderly, and yet they are in court with the federal government trying to impose millions of dollars of fines on them in order to force the nuns to pay for abortion-inducing drugs contrary to the religious faith. Beyond that, we have seen a pattern of lawlessness from the federal government that should trouble anyone concerned about civil liberties, concerned about the Bill of Rights. In my capacity as the ranking member on this committee, we have issued a series of 5 reports cataloging the disregard of the federal Constitution, the disregard of the Bill of Rights from the administration. Indeed, we cataloged 22 cases where the federal government has gone before the U.S. Supreme Court defending expanded federal power and has been rejected unanimously 9-0. In one of those cases, the Department of Justice went before the U.S. Supreme Court and said the Bill of Rights says nothing about whether the federal government can put a GPS locator on any citizen's car. And the position of the Department of Justice was that that does not require probable cause. It does not require articulable suspicion. Indeed, under DOJ's position, every witness who attended this hearing today, every individual citizen who came, the federal government could go and place a GPS on your automobile outside without raising any Fourth Amendment concerns whatsoever. That was an extraordinary position. Thankfully, the U.S. Supreme Court rejected the Department of Justice's views 9-0. We need to be vigilant defending the civil rights of every American, and I look forward to this committee, the larger Judiciary Committee, and to the Senate continuing to do so. And we need to have a particular responsibility to safeguard the Bill of Rights. I would note the saddest moment during my time in the Senate was when 54 Senate Democrats cast a vote for a constitutional amendment to repeal the free speech protections of the First Amendment. That was not consistent with our obligations to protect civil liberties. And I am hopeful going forward we will be vigilant protecting the civil liberties of every American. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Cruz. We're going to turn to